Welcome back to the Cozy Rosy Crochet channel. I am home and back from the Wool Monty, and I'm ready to tell you everything I bought and I received, as well as all the things that happened behind the scenes as I was supporting Bernadine Graham of Me and My Hook, taking part as a vendor for her first show. So the Wool Monty is a yarn show or a wool show, a wool festival, a fibre festival, because it certainly wasn't limited to just yarn for sale at this event. It was the first time that I was attending. It's not a new event. It's been going for many, many years, but it's the first time that the event has been held at the Magna. I don't know if it's the Magna or Magna Centre, whatever it is. It was a very interesting venue. There's actually like a science museum there and the most amazing adventure playgrounds for children. And it felt like it was an amazing adventure playground for us crafters right inside the venue. There was a whopping 65 different vendors at this show, and my good friend Bernadine of Me and My Hook, that I'm going to repeatedly say throughout this video, it was her first ever wool show, and I went along with her to help her set up, help run the stall, and get a bit of a feel of how these events run, because I have a bit of an interest, and if I'm honest, a show booked myself for a lot later on in the year, and I wanted to get myself as prepared as possible. Let me start by telling you a little bit more about the event holders. So Debbie, Mand and Rosie are the organisers of the Wool Monty, and they welcomed, well, I need to explain how I arrived and when Bernadine arrived to explain why they were so welcoming or why I found them so helpful. Obviously, Bernadine and I do not live locally to each other. In fact, we actually live in different countries. Bernadine now lives in Wales and I live in England, and we were kind of meeting, going our separate journeys and meeting at the venue. Bernadine had a bit of a tough challenge getting to the event. There was some serious road issues and many of the vendors weren't able to arrive as planned because there was a huge accident on the M1. Bernadine unfortunately got caught going through the peaks driving a transit van, which is a medium-sized van, which she has not done before, driving across the mountains. That meant she drove very, very safely and therefore very slowly. I think she was caught behind a caravan as well. So it took her, bless her, nearly 6 hours to get there. I arrived at Magna at about 3:30 thinking, oh my goodness, I must be late. Bernadine's probably already here and unloaded and waiting for me. And in fact, it was quite the opposite. I didn't know how to get into the venue. I wasn't an exhibitor, so I didn't have where to go and all that kind of information. But the staff at Magna were very, very helpful and explained where I needed to park, etc. So I went into the venue, found the organisers and explained who I was. I didn't even have a pass. I have my pass now, but the event is over, because Bernadine had my pass too. I was then waiting for Bernadine to arrive, and being the good girl that she is, she did not answer her phone whilst driving, which made me a little bit stressed, a little bit anxious, because I didn't know where she was. The last message I'd received from her was, I'm a little bit lost, but I'm on my way. And I was thinking, what if she's completely lost and in the wrong side of the country, or, you know, it had been long enough for her to probably travel all the way up to Scotland. So I was getting a little bit concerned. And because the unfortunate events on the motorway meant that so many vendors were delayed, they'd extended the time for setup, because it was very generous setup time. They'd extended it all the way for an extra half an hour just to allow a few more people to arrive that had been caught up in the traffic. And I was seeing these vendors arriving thinking, gosh, it's still not here, still not here. All the while I was eating all the amazing donuts and fruit that had been provided by the organisers, very gratefully eating them because I needed sugar to keep my morale going. And all of a sudden it got to 6:30. I went back to the car. I messaged Bernadine. I said, I'm just going to have to meet you at the hotel. She rang me that second and it's like, I'm literally around the corner. So I had to sprint back into the venue and I was like, she's here. They allowed us to quickly dump the stuff and we'd have to do our setup in the morning. I can't thank all of the organisers for helping keep me calm, helping me just kind of get on with sitting around for a few hours waiting for her to arrive. Just very pleased that she did arrive in one piece and very safely. And we were able to get the bulk of the loading in, like all the stock, all her patterns, into the venue before the next day. So when we arrived fresh-faced and relaxed the next morning, we could just spend a couple of hours setting up and making things pretty. Bernadine and I booked the same hotel. It was like, I say hotel, it was a pub with rooms above. I'm no snob, but I am a snob in the fact that I enjoy quite nice hotels. I'm very fortunate. I've stayed in some very nice places around the world. But in the UK, we have varying standards of hotels and things. I am not against a Premier Inn or a Travelodge. You know what you're going to get. But this was quite literally a bedroom above a hotel that was quite lively. Now, I'm not a big drinker. I certainly haven't been out, should we say, like for a proper night out for many, many years. And going to the pub is not one of my pastimes. So it was really surprising for me to see how busy this pub was. We went downstairs, grabbed some food. It was awful. I ordered loaded fries, which was basically chips with cheese and then spring onions. And it arrived with the dirtiest grilled fried onions on top. That was really quite truly repulsive. I ate as much as I could because I was ravenous by this point, because it got to about 7 or 8 o'clock by this time. So I ate what I could, but we went to bed hungry, basically a little bit disappointed in the food. Bernadine luckily passed out quite quickly in her room and was not disturbed by the late night revellers that came back to the rooms above the hotel, above the pub, should I say, about midnight. I am pretty certain someone tried my door, tried to put the key into my room. Obviously, luckily it didn't work because it was not their room, but it certainly disturbed me and woke me up quite dramatically. I'm quite a heavy sleeper, but for them to wake me up, they made a lot of noise. Bernadine slept through the whole thing. Anywho, it was the next day. For day one of the event, we were hoping we were going to be able to calmly go in and just kind of play around with the setup we'd done the day before. Those traffic issues had meant that the setup was a little bit rushed. We got there bang on 8 o'clock. As soon as we could get into the venue, we were there setting up all of Bernadine's wonderful stock. She'd purchased this really nifty kind of interlocking like metal grid square box thing, like my IKEA shelves, but they're metal and really easy to put up. I spent about half an hour building this unit to put all the yarn on, stacking all the yarn because the yarn she had was beautiful, stacked it all into these wonderful grids, turned around to pick up another ball or cake and heard an almighty crash behind me. I could not even bring myself to turn around. The whole grid wall, with about 60% of the wool on it, crashed to the floor. It completely collapsed. To say I was devastated after wasting an hour setting that thing up was an absolute understatement. Bernadine and I were laughing about it yesterday because it had clean gone out of our minds, because we managed to reorganise everything and rearrange the whole stall for what we thought the setup would be, with about 2 minutes to spare and the doors opening. As you can see from Bernadine's stall, she had many different crochet patterns available, lots of shawls on display so people could see how the Crochet UK yarn worked up. It was a 50% cotton, 50% acrylic blend. It is so soft. People were really surprised that it was only a 4-ply, because not a lot of people who crochet work with very thin yarn. I consider 4-ply thin. Only has 4 strands of like cotton or cotton blend in these cakes, but actually they're really cleverly designed. They have a centre pull. The colourways that Bernadine had selected to sell on the stall were just simply beautiful. There was a couple of exclusive colourways on there, and some of the shawls that are on display didn't have the yarn cakes for, which is not necessarily an oversight. Some of the colours are no longer available. If you're a crocheter and you've been to a yarn show before, you may be aware that there aren't as many crochet designers attending these types of events, and they can feel a little bit knitting heavy. There's no slur on the events, it's just that crochet designers don't attend, or they aren't even aware that they can attend. Obviously, Bernadine is setting out to change that, and I've seen many crochet designers at all the various shows that I've been to over the last 12 months, including the Knitting and Stitching show in Harrogate and London. There was a beautiful like baby blanket designer. I can't remember what the name was because it's not my, horrible as it sounds, it's not the kind of patterns I make or design, so I didn't really go and have a nose. But there were quite a few crochet designers at the Wool Monty. It was very evenly spread, alongside knitting designers, yarn vendors. I also saw needle felting, embroidery. Almost every single yarn craft you can imagine was there. There was weaving. I'm trying to remember everything that was around us. I didn't even get a chance to walk around the whole of the hall across the 2 days. On the first day, well, it's, as I said, it's not that we underestimated how busy it would be. Maybe it's we underestimated how chatty we could be, because we spoke to so many amazing people that wanted to get into crochet, people that wanted to make some more interesting shawls and were fascinated by the yarn cakes. We just had so many amazing conversations, met so many wonderful people. We got to help celebrate a birthday. Not only was it one of the vendors' birthdays, but one of the customers, I think it was, see if I could, Nellie. Her name was Nellie, absolutely wonderful lady. It was her birthday as well. And it was just so nice to, you know, feel like you're making people's day. It's one of the reasons I love working in retail in a craft shop, because it's the conversations you have with people around why they craft, the types of things that they craft are just absolutely glorious. You end up finding out things you probably never would normally in a normal conversation. There's a few people that really stand out, like the conversations I had with people. There was one lady who had spliced together three of her father's jumpers into, she'd fashioned a cardigan out of it. So she'd taken the sleeve from one of the jumpers and then used front panels from another to create the front of her cardigan. I wish I'd taken a photo, because she'd created these most beautiful buttons and a double button band that was open. It was just absolutely stunning. I saw the most amazing strawberry granny square cardigan. I didn't get that lady's name, but it was beautiful. It was white squares. The strawberries were crocheted and then embroidered, you know, sewn on, but all the joins between the granny squares were in red. I should have taken a photo of that. Numerous granny hexagons were about the place, and I very proudly wore my very own Strawberry Sunday cardigan. That was launched on the Friday. I probably should have left it till the weekend coming so I could have focused a bit more. I'm going to talk about that for the rest of this week. But there was a wonderful gentleman. Again, I didn't catch his name. He was wearing a Stephen West shawl. You could see from a distance that it was one of his designs, and he was just such a lovely man. This gentleman and I had a conversation about the lighting in the venue. It's used as a wedding venue, and it has the little starlight curtains twinkling in the background. And this gentleman and I, who was wearing the Stephen West shawl, were discussing the lighting, because he was finding it a little bit, it was almost too dark but too light at the same time, which probably doesn't make sense. What I loved about the event and the ethos behind the event is that it is so accessible. It's designed with accessibility and inclusivity at its heart, and that's very important to me. I believe that every single person in our fibre community should be made welcome. I love the fact that they're striving to achieve that, and one of the biggest pages in the booklet that I have here, the show guide, has a whole page saying everyone is valued, everybody is welcome, and if you see anything or experience anything that does not make you feel welcome, to let them know. They're very receptive to feedback. They've already said to us, we want your feedback as vendors. They'll be contacting all the people that attended for their feedback as well, so they can continue to improve on making an inclusive and wonderful experience for everybody that attends. So a little bit of background as to why I was there. I love Bernadine. I think she's an amazing designer. But even if it was myself going to my first show, I would want somebody there with me. Just not even for hand holding, just for, you know, chivvying up. I'm a huge cheerleader of anybody that wants to do anything in their lives. And I believe in everything Bernadine does. The resilience that Bernadine has is pretty astounding. And I was honoured to be able to go along and help her. But there was a little, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I need to find out more about these events. Will it work for me as a business to be able to go and meet more people and spread my joy of crochet, spread my patterns and share and meet more people? And it proved wholeheartedly that the fact I have a show booked in December is definitely the right way for me to go. Loved every minute of it, except for waiting for Bernadine to arrive. That was stressful, but apart from that, the whole experience was absolutely lovely. And of course, I got to go shopping. So I was able to go around and have a good look at some of the stalls. Because I was so conscious of leaving Bernadine for too long, I didn't get a chance to see every single stall, but I have certainly included lots of different ones to highlight some of my favourite stalls, and I could get to purchase a few things as well. One of the things that I had seen while we were setting up, or while I was waiting for Bernadine to arrive, were yarnlings. the fact that it came in a little sweeter jar is just even more gorgeous for me. So these little yarnlings are 5-gram balls of yarn. And my plan is to just stitch them all up into granny squares, and then I will make something out of those granny squares. But the fact that I can just place this on my shelf and it looks absolutely adorable, I couldn't resist them. I saw them when we were setting up. Just literally scoop them, put them into your jar, and then you've got this random selection. I've got one of each colour, I think. And then you've ended up with the most beautiful collection of hand-dyed yarns that, without that price tag, sometimes comes along with some of those beautiful hand-dyed yarns. So they were from Eden Cottage Yarns, and I'm going to tag them as I stitch those up as well. But I've popped a link in the description box for you to go and check them out. All the vendors that I'm going to be talking about today, you will find listed in order in the description box below, so that you can go and find out more about these amazing small businesses. Oh. So this is my bag from the Left Hookery, but we're not going to do that yet. That'll probably be the last thing we get out of this bag. So the next yarn that I picked up was from Vegan Yarns. Now, I am always on the hunt for interesting fibres and to work with different fibres, because I just like the idea of trying different things. So I picked up 4 of these, mainly because they literally look like ice cream. And I think I'm going to make some kind of summery project. Knowing me, it's probably going to be another bag. I think I've got yarn for loads of different bags today. And this is super chunky. So it's a super bulky weight. And you can see the individual strand is really quite nice and chunky. Probably going to go for a... What would I go for on this? I'm not sure what size hook I will use. Can I untwist this for you to show you? Oh, I think it's organic cotton. And I just absolutely love these colours. And you can imagine how beautiful they're going to be, all stitched up, looking wonderful. And I can't wait to work these up. They're going to be absolutely beautiful. There we go. Not perfect, but it's good enough to go back on the shelf. So I've got 4 of those. So I've got 400 grams of that beautiful colourway. I think it needs to be some kind of, I don't know. It smells amazing. I love the smell of hand-dyed yarn. So that was from Vegan Yarns, 100% organic cotton. And I'm not ashamed of looking in bargain buckets, because sometimes, like many things, all businesses end up with stuff that they don't necessarily want to stock, or that just didn't sell well. And then of course I come along and see colours that I love. So yes, I bought this colourway and this colourway from the same shop. This was Vegan Yarns once again. And the reason I picked this up is because it is 50% cotton and 50% soy. Now, I've never worked with soy yarn, and I love any opportunity to try something a little bit different. I've just made another version, literally finished the last row yesterday. I was supposed to wear it yesterday, but I never got around to finishing it. I made another version of my granny hexagon cardigan. Let me grab it. And I made it in a different yarn weight. It's a slightly heavier DK, so I was able to make it a little bit quicker. And this is actually a blend of cotton and yak and nylon. And I'm really impressed with the softness and durability and summer appropriate weight of yak. It's quite a hard word to say without sounding like you're throwing up, but strangely enough, it was actually the only yarn I got right when testing out on the Spinners Guild stall. They had like test your knowledge of fibres, and the yak was one of the only ones I got right. That and cotton. They had so many different fibres to kind of test your knowledge on. You could have a feel, have a squidge, and see which you thought they were. And my answers were horrifically wrong. So I got cotton, nylon and yak right. I didn't even get the dog right. And we realised that that was because I have a silky dog and the fur they had was from a chow, which is a little bit rougher. And I know one of my good friends has had a chow who sadly passed earlier this year. And I thought I would have recognised the feeling of their fur. So it was really interesting to be able to try all those fibres but yak is definitely moved up on the list for more fibres to try. While I was wandering around, I found Blue Fern Yarns, who did have a yak yarn, and I've put it on my list to purchase at the Summer Wool Festival. I'm making sure my husband can't hear me, because they recommended this wool wash to use with natural fibres. Oh, I picked the jasmine scent, and you can get this on the Blue Fern Yarns website, and it smells unbelievable. You only need the teeny tiniest amount. I'm going to do a video of me washing my cardigan, which sounds a bit weird, but it's going to surprise you how much dirt comes out of worked yarn and why it's always worth washing your projects before you use them. I'm not blocking that cardigan, but if I can soften it even more just because I'm using a wool wash, I am going to go that. So thank you for the recommendation from Blue Fern Yarns. It's another yarn from Vegan Yarns, and I'm really excited by this. They had some of the most amazing yarns. They had Tencel, which is actually made from eucalyptus. I need to bring back my fibre series to cover all of these different yarns that I'm trying out. And they had seaweed, pineapple, I can't even take so many different fibres, and they had paper yarn. This is literally yarn twisted to create yarn. This is literally paper. You can see the print on these strands. Yes, it's 100% paper, and they very kindly gifted this to me so that I could have a play, because obviously it's not waterproof. So I'm going to make something out of this. There is 42 meters, oh no, 39 meters on here, and I'm simply going to stitch up something. I want to make a table center, like a placemat. So it's just going to be nice and simple. I'm probably going to use my Honey and Crumpets pattern for that, just to stitch it up. And then I'm going to coat it in PVA to see if we can make it waterproof. They want to know if that works. So I will let them know if my plan comes together. So I'm going to pop that back through before, I don't want it to come undone. My only issue is Emily, my dog, is a paper eater. And as soon as she saw this in my bag, she was already starting to nibble. So I have to keep this high and out of reach. So I'm just going to pop that there because it's on the list to do later this week, hopefully. So again, the newspaper yarn was from Vegan Yarns. I've linked them below. Go and have a look at all the different fibres they have because it is truly fascinating. But they're definitely out and about doing lots of festivals this year. So it's definitely worth, if you're going to a festival, making sure that you call in to Vegan Yarns, because not only were they wonderful people, oh, they gifted me something else. Hang on. They gifted me a little, I'm obsessed with shawl pins at the minute. And they gifted me this beautiful wooden ice cream coloured shawl pin. If you're not aware of how shawl pins work, you kind of use it to go, you pull the fabric through and then secure it through the shawl pin. But can you even imagine? It's just going to be beautiful, or that against a black shawl. Not that I crochet with black, obviously, but I'm just enamored with this and so grateful they were kind enough to gift that to me. So yeah, Vegan Yarns, highly recommend. Shall we go on to the reason why I have such a big bag is the left hookery. Now, I'm not familiar with all of these brands that were at the show, but I have certainly seen this yarn about the place. So this is Bobbiny. It ends with a Y, I think, not a G. And it is this is their 5mm braided cotton. They have even thicker yarns available, and they have this kind of circular style braided cord with rope running through it. And I think that's a 10mm. I'm going to recreate my latest bag pattern in this yarn. But I bought two because that's who I am. I can't have, it's one of the things I worry about is when buying something special that I buy enough of it, because I've fallen into the trap of buying one single skein of hand-dyed yarn, especially if it's Aran weight or chunky, and it's not very much. So there is a lot on here, but this is 100% recycled cotton, although it does have a little bit of a metallic thread through. So as you can see, a little glistening there, which I thought why it would be so great to recreate that same bag. But there were also these beautiful handle kits. So I don't know if you can see that it comes with all the jingly bits you need. So it comes with the metal studs so you can secure them to your finished bag as well. And I bought the longer length, like shoulder strap bags. So I'm going to put that onto my finished bag as well. When I'm doing this, I don't know, soon I hope, I would like to work through these projects because I now have even more of them. I did buy something else. God, I didn't think I bought that much. So the final thing I bought were some stitch markers. Now, I don't get to use stitch markers that often, but one of the things I like to use them for is for photos, which sounds ridiculous. But obviously I need to do pretty photos of my projects. So these are from the Treble Maker design, and I have everything from a coffee pot to a coffee bean. I've got a baguette, a slice of pizza, some egg on toast, some happy toast, some croissants, and we couldn't decide if it was a Cornish pasty or an empanada. And I also had to get some other breakfast, so I've got a waffle as well. And these little cuties, I'm going to lay them flat and show them for you. These little cuties are just adorable. I like this hook closure because it just pops open. You could easily insert your stitches and they snap shut and they're lockable. I only ever use lockable stitch markers because if you've ever made an amigurumi, worked in a continuous round and you turn around and like, where is that stitch marker gone? Because it wasn't locked in place, you'll understand my need for lockable stitch markers. So that was everything I bought and a couple of extra things I was gifted. And I was gifted something else as well, and I literally cried. I'm getting emotional thinking about it because I was just chatting away. Let me grab my coffee. One of the things I really, really want to get into is, of course, yarn spinning. I have a nano and I have mastered probably the absolute basics, but at these wool shows, you'll usually see your local spinning guild and they're very happy for you to have a go and talk you through all the different techniques. And I was, before the show opened yesterday, we got there about 9 o'clock just to have a little play around. And I was chatting away to one of the ladies on the spinning guild while we were doing our fibre test and failing. And she was showing me everything she'd hand spun on the same machine that I have, which was obviously really, really interesting. And one of the yarns she had, I fell in love with. It was literally something I would probably spend a good amount of money on. And I was like, God, that's so gorgeous. It was like unicorny. And at the end of the show, she came up to me and gifted me the yarn. So this is hand spun by someone in their local spinning guild. And she made this beauty. It's not a small hank of yarn, is it? And she gifted it to me. And I haven't ever cried that much about yarn other than spoiling something. But for someone to gift me something, I was quite literally overwhelmed. By this point, I was very tired and I get very emotional when I'm tired. But I can't even explain all the amazing colours in here. And I think the reason that I love it so much is actually I could make this. You know, when you see something or a project and you're like, God, that looks so difficult and so complicated to make. Could I do it, etc., etc. And she really inspired me because she made it all seem so possible. And this yarn is literally spun using, I've done that really loosely, done by working just one larger, thicker strand of yarn and then spinning it, or plying it, sorry, with a single strand of thread. And that is, in fact, very achievable for us newbies to spinning. I'm not very good at doing this twiddly bit. Well, that's a bit better. There we go. That looks a bit more like it. But it's just absolutely beautiful. And I was so enamoured and overwhelmed when she gifted it to me. This is going top of the list to work on. So I'll put that with that one, ready to work up very soon. She also gave me some Corridale to practice my spinning because I've not done it for so long. I need to get back into it again. So I am literally enamoured with that wool show, from the organisers, the amazing customers that came through that were just so lovely and nice to chat to and had some amazing conversations. I didn't even get all the way round, but to see all these amazing vendors with the most wonderful yarns for sale and seeing the other crochet designers that were there as well, it was just so wonderful. I hope you have booked to go to a yarn show this year. If you would like to come along to one of my workshops, I'm only doing workshops at shows this year up until December, when I will be at a show, and I'll be telling you all about that. There is workshops currently available for sale at both the Summer Wool Festival in Ampthill. I'm also going to Newcastle at the racecourse where I'm doing workshops there. I've got workshops at the London Knitting and Stitching Show. Just waiting to hear about Harrogate. I'm not sure if the tickets for London are on sale yet. And then the yarn show that I'm going to be showing at is a Christmas yarn show, and it's the Christmas Wool Festival, or the Christmas Wool Show, I think, sorry, the Christmas Wool Show, and that's being held at the National Conference Centre near Birmingham. I don't have the exact address in my head, but I've booked my accommodation. That's half the battle. So I will be prepping from now, well, from tomorrow, on getting myself organised, knowing more about what customers want and what I need to have available on my stall. But I'm really excited, and I thank you for coming along with me to this little kind of mini behind the scenes. I've talked more about the wool show because the behind the scenes was very quick, and I wish we'd videoed that wall of wool falling down, because I can laugh about it now, but I felt terrible when it actually happened. When I think about how I've been struggling over the last 6 months to keep going and keep focused and feeling a bit up in the air about where I want to go with Cozy Rosy Crochet, I love talking to you guys right here on YouTube. I love my Facebook group. I love designing, but I need people in my life. I actually need human contact, and I really feel that attending these yarn shows might be the way forward for me. So fingers crossed I can get accepted for a few more shows for 2025, and I can be talking to you about how my show went next year at the Wool Monty or at any of the other shows, hopefully. If you know of any shows that are held to you locally that you think would be welcoming for me or would be good for a crochet designer to attend, please let me know, especially in the UK. Not sure how it works going abroad, although I have seen that Toronto has a wool show. I do love Toronto very much. But yes, thank you so much for joining me for my whistle stop tour of, once again, everything I bought, even though I was going to spend no money. And I hope you get to go along to the Wool Monty show next year, and that you get to attend any of the amazing wool shows local to you throughout 2024. I'll see you in the next video.